Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
If you would call roll, please.
Comment? Vincent?
Yes.
Perry? Here. Silver?
Here.
Klein?
Here.
Bilski?
Here.
I am here. I'll make a motion to appoint J. Stefan Holmes to the Orange Village Tech.
Don't need to. It's work session, special meeting.
We don't need, yeah.
Only the regular meeting required.
I'm on it. To the Orange Village Tax Incentive Review Council for a term ending December 31st, 2020.
Second.
Thank you. Mayor, would you like to?
Well, Stefan, if you do a good job, we'll reappoint you for the next 2-year term, so don't be upset. Stefan is a resident of Orange, and the really great thing about this is he has a lot of experience with tax incentive financing and review commissions, and this is something he's very comfortable and knows. Did you get his resume?
No, did not pass it out. I didn't see it until after they.
No.
Okay, well, Stefan, you want to just introduce yourself just a little? I didn't get your resume. Tell them what bank you work for and.
Good evening.
Actually, come up to the microphone. I'm sorry. Thank you. Silly rules around here.
Well, it's no rules. I know everybody needs to say, or at least hear what I'm saying.
Cast at home.
Oh, really?
All those people watching.
Miss.
The camera? No, I'm just
There.
Over there.
There is.
No, it's a pleasure when I talked to the mayor and spoke with Dana a little bit. Also, one of your advisors, Matt Stasinski, is a personal friend and professional friend, and we spoke about the opportunity. I serve the mayor of the city of Cleveland, Frank Jackson, on their tax incentive review committee as their chair. I'm also a member of the Cuyahoga County Port Authority, and my daytime job, which helps me pay my taxes here, is a banker with First National Bank and government banking. So it's really a pleasure. I'm a pretty much recent resident of Orange, pretty much a lifelong resident of Beechwood, but we moved here 3 years ago on Orangewood, or in Orangewood development on Hemlock Circle. Very pleased. I've known the mayor for,
13 already.
13 years. We were in Leadership Cleveland class together. And as you all know, fell in love with her passion. And you know it's very hard to say no to her. So that's why I'm here tonight, because it was very hard to say no. But again, I look forward to this opportunity, and I look forward to representing Orange Village, something to make you proud.
Great. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
After they vote.
Come to the neighborhood.
If you would call roll, please.
Vincent?
Yes.
Perry? Yes. Silver?
Yes.
Klein?
Yes.
Bilski?
Enthusiastically.
Yes.
Silver?
Yes. If you want to come over here and you can get sworn in.
Yeah, for sure.
How do you want this staged?
Your flesh.
Got your photographer?
Yes.
Yeah. Red smile, you're going to be in it. Lisa, too.
You okay?
No, you're good.
Ready?
Sure.
Repeat after me. I state your name.
I, Stephen Holmes,
Do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will support the Constitution of the United States,
the Constitution of the United States,
the Constitution of the State of Ohio,
the Constitution of the State of
the
Ohio,
rules, regulations, and charter
the rules, regulation, and charter
of Orange Village,
of Orange Village.
and that I will faithfully,
I will faithfully,
honestly, and impartially
honestly, and impartially
discharge my duties as a member of Tax Incentive Review Council
as a member of Tax Incentive Review Council
of Orange Village, State of Ohio,
of Orange Village, State of Ohio,
for the term ending December 31st, 2020,
for the term ending December 1st, 2020. 31st, 2020,
during my continuance in said office.
during my continuance in said office.
Thank you so much. Welcome aboard.
Thank
Say
you.
hello to everybody and then come back here.
Welcome aboard.
Thanks, sir. Hello. Hello. Thank you.
Stefan? Sign here. We will get you a suitable for framing copy. Right, Anna?
Amanda has one.
Hi, Paula. Okay, I'm in a council meeting. I'm gonna have to call you back.
You do a good job, and I'll...
All right, bye-bye.
Pamela feels better.
I'll next make a motion to appoint Amanda Curlin to the Orange Village Tax Incentive Review Council for a term ending December 31st, 2021. Is
I'll
there-
second that, too.
Don't think we need that much introduction with Amanda. We've all just learned all about her, and she did start on our finance committee, so I'm very happy she agreed to become further involved with the governance.
I just want to ask a question, not about Amanda, but about the council, which I know hasn't met.
Ever.
Ever. Are there,
Why don't we do this? Why don't, let's go ahead and get Amanda in, if you're okay with that, and then.
perfectly fine.
So, any comments? If not, if you'd call roll, please.
Vincent?
Yes.
Harry? Silver?
Klein?
Enthusiastically, yes.
Yes.
Duber?
Yes. If you want to come on up and get sworn in.
Pictures, too. I'll do it with mine. I'll send it to you.
Ready? I state your name. I, Amanda Curlin. Do solemnly swear.
Do solemnly swear
That I will support the Constitution of the United States.
that I will support the Constitution of the United States,
The Constitution of the State of Ohio.
the Constitution of the State of Ohio,
The rules, regulations, and charter
the rules, regulations, and charter
of Orange Village.
of Orange Village,
And that I will faithfully, honestly, and impartially
and that I will faithfully, honestly, and impartially
discharge my duties
discharge my duties
as a member of Tax Incentive Review Council
as a member of Tax Incentive Review Council
of Orange Village, State of Ohio,
of Orange Village, State of Ohio,
for the term ending December 31st, 2021,
for the term ending December 31st, 2021,
during my continuance in said office.
during my continuance in said office.
Welcome aboard. Congratulations again. Say hello to everyone.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Shake everybody's hand. That's the protocol here.
It's just because you know us, Amanda.
Here, that's the protocol.
I'm just going to fist bump everybody from now on.
Oh, yeah.
Corona bumper. A bump.
That's right.
A bump.
Really? Or is she kidding?
We'll just like,
We'll just wave.
Queen's wave.
You go like this.
now, question.
Yeah, I'm just wondering if there are plans to have this council meet, or if this is just an in name-only thing, or...
Called by the county.
The county calls it, and there are no terms of the incentive. I mean, they've built what they're supposed to build. As long as they make the payment, they're in compliance. So there's really nothing to be done. But the statute requires that the board be composed, and I don't know what the county's protocol is in terms of calling meetings. They're supposed to call one a year.
Is it for the duration of the TIF, or is it forever and ever and ever?
Yes, it's for the duration of the TIF.
Oh, you're, sorry, you're kicked off. You're not allowed to be on it because you're on council. I thought that was obvious.
You mentioned that once before, I just couldn't remember.
And you're off too. Wait, who's the other?
All right. I will, let's move on. I'll make a motion to award the bid for the Miles Road Culvert Replacement Project for 2020 to Fabrizi Trucking and Paving in the amount not to exceed $195,282.50.
Second.
Thank you.
Brian is here.
Brian.
Brian, good to have you back, Brian.
All right, this is the rebid of the Miles Road Culvert Project. For those that weren't on council last fall, we had bid this project out and received a significantly higher bid than the engineer's estimate.
So we just raised the estimate.
And basically got $40,000 savings in bids.
This is much more than it was last year.
Well, the bids in the fall were about $230,000, so, which was significantly higher than my estimate of about 180, and oh look, it's 195.
That's
This project is in conjunction with the city of Solon, so Orange Village is not even responsible for this entire project. Our portion is only about 95,000 of this.
And where are we getting 60-some thousand of that?
70,000 from the regional sewer district for our 10%, or our 25% portion of our sewer fees is going to be used for this.
So I assume Solon has to pass this too?
Correct. And they are, what's that?
Did they do that yet?
They are in the same process. They are going to be passing it. So
Okay.
I have not heard any objections from them.
Going to have a contract with the contractor.
No, it's all going to be through us.
They have already adopted a memorandum of understanding with us whereby they are participating. Is it 60-40 or 50-50?
It's like, the cost is actually broken down. What's in theirs is theirs, what's in ours is ours. But it's about a 60-40 split.
During the contract on their side of the road.
Yes.
They've already agreed to, so they don't have to do anything more.
They don't have to
That's
do
in there.
But they do have an agreement that, okay.
Yes. They're in the loop of this whole project.
Can you clarify for those of us who are new, or at least for me, what this project does?
There's a culvert between East and West Woodcrest down on Miles Road. Starts on our side, finishes on their side. It's failing. We were looking to do some road repair and stuff. We went in through the culvert. Obviously, the culvert needed to be replaced. So we reached out to Solon to work together to get this project done.
Can you estimate, I mean, what kind of construction will be involved and what the time frame is? Will Miles be closed? What's it going to mean for residents?
Miles will be closed one day on a Saturday. We already had worked that out with the city of Solon and also with Moreland Hills, because the actual physical crossing when you're installing the culvert, there's just no way to get a machine to put a culvert of that size in, back it through without taking up both lanes of Miles Road. So again, we worked with Solon, already worked with Moreland Hills to close it on a Saturday. That's all we'll need. We can do both ends. So we'll start at one end, at this lower end on Solon's side, do up to the road, close it on a Saturday, go through the road, get the road back open, and then complete the job. But it's going to be a one-day closure.
It's coming up soon, like March, April. Are we looking down the?
Haven't had a pre-construction meeting. You got to award the contract first.
Date you when we have dates.
Thank you.
So obviously, Fabrizi has worked on tons of projects throughout the village. We're very familiar with them, and we have no problem with recommending the award.
Is it standard procedure to use whoever comes in cheapest, or would we have to?
No.
So we would
No, it's the.
You don't.
No, it's best,
What I was getting at.
I don't know
best
that
qualified bid.
We did one not too long ago.
Would we not solicit
Within the
bids?
last 12 months, I
Something in the
think.
fire department?
Would we not solicit bids unless we felt the
That too. That too.
Right.
If the lowest bid was someone that was not qualified and the engineer would tell us that he feels that way, then we could bypass.
There's a couple of contractors on here that I am not familiar with, that if they were to low bid, they would be fully vetted and to see if, A, they have municipal experience or anything like along those lines before I would make any recommendation.
And it just reminded me, I think, for those of you who are participating in tours, I just think we'll add another one, maybe in the following month, and we'll have a little discussion about how we've been managing our infrastructure programming over the years. You know, go over and look at that chart you have and explain to them how we've handled it. If they want. Seriously?
Any other comments on the motion? All right, if you call roll, please.
Vincent,
Yes.
Perry, Silver,
yes.
Klein,
Yes.
Bilski,
Yes.
Duber.
Weren't enthusiastic.
And
Doesn't warrant enthusiasm.
whenever you want to do that. Whenever you want to do that. You want to set up our next tour.
Oh, okay, I will.
I'll make a motion to approve the special council meeting minutes, February 5th, 2020. Is there a second? Thank you. Anybody have any comments? Please call roll.
Vincent,
Yes.
Harry,
Yes.
Silver,
Yes.
Klein. Yes. Bilski,
Yes.
Yes, and I'll make a motion to approve the council meeting minutes of February 12th, 2020. Second, anyone?
Second.
Thank you. Comments? All right, if you would call roll, please.
Vincent,
Yes.
Harry. Yes. Silver,
Yes.
Klein,
Yes.
Bilski,
Yes.
Duber.
Yes. The treasurer's report for fiscal year 2019 through December.
Second?
Thank you.
Good evening, everyone.
Hello, Dana.
Welcome back.
Ding.
We had the treasurer's report from December. This is our year-end report. We ended the year with a cash balance of just over $8.2 million. And you received a summary for the year end, with December having $1.1 million in revenue, 1.8 in expenditures. We ended the year very well. You have the details that showed we collected 106.78% of our budgeted revenue in the general fund, and we spent 97% of our expenditures in the general fund. The reason our total, wait, you gave them the wrong ones?
We have November.
November accidentally. Hey, I haven't.
Do you want to, I have an idea. You can make copies of December, and then we'll do the tax administrator's report.
But do you have the, right,
Which, do you have the January tax administrator report?
or do you have
If
December?
not, I'll run out and do it whilst you continue the meeting.
It's the funds received by December 31st?
No, okay, so, all
I'll go get you the correct ones while you run your meeting.
right,
I grabbed it from the wrong.
Okay, they're all wrong. Oh,
relating to agenda items. There is no old business, new business, ordinance number 2020-5, an ordinance authorizing the mayor to enter into an agreement with the Northeast Ohio.
Okay, I got to get Zugan back. This is his.
So let's move on to
it's right there.
It's right there.
I didn't see.
Go anywhere?
Sewer district and declaring emergency. This is on for first reading. Mr. Zugan, would you like to come up and?
If you want the money for it, you got to do this.
Okay, we're paying somebody to do our stormwater program, and this is what we need to get the sewer district to pay for the somebody we're going to pay to do our stormwater program. And that's the next item on the agenda.
Yeah, this one part of our good housekeeping is basically money that's washed through Northeast Ohio Regional Sewer District.
No, this is money that goes down the drain.
5 is for the culvert project.
It is?
Yes.
Yes, a cost share program.
Cost share, that's
So this, you just authorized the contract. If you want to get the resources.
73,000.
That's the ordinance.
Suspend?
Yes.
Make a motion to suspend.
Oh, go ahead.
Sorry?
That's all right. Yeah. He was way enthused.
Motion, please.
Why am I giving that to Scott? Okay. Vincent,
Yes.
Harry. Yes. Silver,
Yes.
Klein,
Yes.
Bilski,
Yes.
Duber.
Yes, and I'll make a motion to pass ordinance 2020-5. Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, thank you. Any other comments or discussion on this? Okay.
Yes. Harry. Yes. Silver.
Yes.
Klein,
Yes.
Bilski,
Yes.
Duber.
Yes.
Everything I said before is on the next one.
And Resolution 2020-1, a resolution authorizing the mayor to enter into a memorandum of understanding with the Cuyahoga Soil and Water Conservation District and the Northeast Ohio Regional Sewer District. I will make a motion to pass the resolution. Is there a second? Thank you.
I have a quick question, and that, we're doing this in tandem with Solon, correct? Or is this,
Before.
That was this.
was the one before? Okay, then never mind.
Exactly, can you give an?
Okay, Bob, you want to tell them the history behind this? History.
A stormwater management plan, and part of it, we have 6 items there. This part deals with Northeast Ohio Regional Sewer District and Cuyahoga Soil and Water. Cuyahoga Soil and Water, it's money that's washed through regional, pays for it to provide this service to the village. They cover MCM 1 and 2, which is a PIPE program, which is public involvement, public education. So basically what we're doing is we're authorizing the money to pass through, we pay for it, and it's reimbursed through Northeast Ohio Regional to perform that function of our stormwater plan.
Thank you.
Welcome.
Any other questions? Comments, concerns? If you'd call roll, please.
Yes.
Harry,
Yes.
Silver,
Yes.
Klein,
Point of order.
Resolution.
Oh, it's just a resolution. Okay, yes.
Bilski,
Yes.
Duper.
Yes.
I have one, I don't know where this would fall, but I have one comment about one of the addendum pages we got. It's labeled as Miles Road culvert replacement, but it fell in the middle of all of this. It just, the council's listed and it's the old council, and I don't know if that needs to be changed or updated.
Exhibit A in 2020.
It doesn't have a,
Beginning of that, I think.
There's like a map or something she's pointing at.
there's a map on it.
Yeah, it's the cover sheet.
Right here.
That's Ron. That's when the project was starting. That would have been at the time that the,
I don't know about that.
May of 2019, it says.
That's when we originally, I think that's when we originally went out for bid.
That's just reflecting what it was at the time.
Is he still around? And, no, because he wasn't on.
No, but that's who was at the time that this was.
It says May 2019 on the bottom.
That's when the plans
He
It doesn't
died
matter.
in April.
Yeah. I don't know.
Maybe he started drawing before then.
Either way.
It's not material.
I just didn't know.
All right, so why don't we, we'll move on to audience comments. I know. That's just gonna be a longer discussion, so as.
Gotcha.
Move on to audience comments related to the village. Anyone? Speak? I saw raised hand. No. And why don't we,
Want to do committee?
we can do the discussion of the vaping legislation. Mr. Klein,
Yes.
I'm giving you the floor.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it. I brought this up at a prior council meeting. There's concern for the access and use of vaping material and paraphernalia by youth as being a problem. And a number of other communities in the area have undertaken to enact legislation to restrict the both sale, purchase, use, and possession of vaping products as well as vaping devices for those under 18, under age. And given the risks and physical issues that are associated with it, I believe it's something that we ought to concern ourselves with as well. We don't have any significant number of outlets in our community where these products are being sold. However, we do have a couple locations I've noted that are selling vaping products. But I think that we need to address it so that it, particularly in public areas, we don't find this being used in our public park, in the some of the other playing fields and so on, where these might be likely to be used by young people. And I think we need to consider how we might regulate them. To that point, I didn't see it in the packet here, there was a
I sent it a while ago.
You should have seen a document. Pepper Pike is enacting a piece of legislation that will address vaping to a large extent, really to cover the schools so that the schools can enforce that on the school grounds. But other communities have similarly taken up the cause as well. Mayfield is enacted a vaping regulation. Strongsville has enacted a vaping regulation. One of the things that's important and I'm trying to look for where, I know I put this stuff in my packet. I don't know where it is. Oh, here it is. This is the regulation from the city of Strongsville, youth defines the use of the item and the restriction on youth of this particular equipment. One of the things that the Pepper Pike ordinance goes into that neither the Mayfield nor the Strongsville ordinance cover is what happens when we have a youth that does violate this regulation. And what they've done, and I think is appropriate, is that they direct the children towards anti-smoking education, and it doesn't become a, if you will, a jailable, finable offense. It's removal of the device and encouragement of for some kind of education so that the student understands the ramifications of doing this. There have been a number of deaths associated with this product and these devices and systems, and the jury is way out on this one. There's a long lead time relative to some of the research that's going on, but it's very clear that there is a direct correlation between consuming of vaping products and significant illness and maybe even death from them. So to that point, I believe it's important that we as a community be responsible and develop our regulations that are appropriate for this in our community. So I would like to request that our law director take a look at some of these, the two ordinances. I know you're familiar with the Pepper Pike one, but also to review the Mayfield and Strongsville ones, which are very similar to one another, and craft an ordinance for Orange Village. That having been said, I'd like to hear what my colleagues on council think about this.
Ordinance apply to Pinecrest as well, or not because it's private property?
Yeah.
Okay.
It has to do with the user.
True, if it's
Yes, it would.
private,
Yes, it would.
even though it's
Yeah.
private property?
Yeah.
Can they tell me I can't do something on my property?
It would not be lawful for a minor to, if a legislation passed, it would not be lawful for a minor to take the property.
Well, it's
What's your grandkids doing that?
No more visits.
A 3-year-old.
I guess my question's for the chief. Did you talk to any of the other communities about this by any chance?
No, not at all.
Okay.
I'm really familiar with what places sell vapes in Warrenville.
The gas station.
Miles away.
Miles
Joe?
and the Shell.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's not something we're generally looking for, but they do sell it.
But it would pertain to just possessing it as well,
Yeah,
too.
it's beyond just the sale of it. It's the possession of the device and the vaping products.
We did get the Clark Station to take down the banner that they had advertising them.
Yeah.
So I guess
Asking him.
something that would be difficult for the police department to, is that, I guess,
Well, I'm curious now, what you brought up previously, where you said, the mayor asked, and if she wanted her grandson to vape on her property. I don't think we can enforce that, because adults can have their children drink on their property, and that's legal.
I was pulling up the prior draft. I don't have it in front of me. Let me find that, and I think there's.
I'm not as much worried about
No, that's right.
I think the enforceability would be if people are in the parks and, I don't think that, it would be much more than seeing people on the, I guess if they're on the trails or in parks or.
Traffic stops, perhaps?
Yeah, traffic stops or Pinecrest.
Your Pinecrest.
I think that's probably the places that.
Yeah.
The ordinance, and I'm looking at the Strongsville ordinance now, the ordinance makes an exception for the child who is accompanied by the parents or spouse who is 18 years of age or older, or legal guardian of the child. So that you're right. If a guardian or parent is supervising the vaping,
why they'd be doing that, I don't know, but.
The ordinance.
Are all three ordinances, do they all apply to children just under 18, or where's that 18 to 21 area?
This particular ordinance in Strongsville and Pepper Pike
18.
only applies to 18 and under.
18 and under.
And it covers, the state code has been covering the sales to people under the age of 21. This covers also possession by anyone under the age of 18.
But the state isn't possession, the state is...
That's right.
Yeah.
It's regulating the commercial aspect of it.
Any other thoughts?
I have a thought just on how we're seeing ourselves as a council, what we want to delve into versus what we think the state and the federal government ought to be addressing rather than a local government. And I think it's interesting to see the change over all these years. I'm not saying it's good or bad that we do this. I really think we have to think carefully of what role do we serve at a local level versus what we need facts from the government to provide, like real information that's studied over some time before jumping into these kind of legislations. In the past, we've passed some resolutions saying we condone something or we love something, but we don't really pass legislation on policy things like that. So that it might be changing because I see more and more local governments doing things like that. That's something we've ever done.
Well, I guess my position, which I think I've made it clear before on resolutions, is they're kind of stupid in my opinion. There's no enforceability, just because, 7 idiots up here say, oh, that's bad to do. I don't think that really means anything. And so I personally am not a huge fan of doing resolutions for most things, let alone this. In terms of...
Well, I'm not talking about a resolution here.
Speaking to that point. And I know councils used to do that a lot, and I think we've kind of veered away from it a little bit, which
If we have an ordinance, then we need some teeth to provide some punishment for breaking the law. And in the two ordinances you gave as examples, there were nothing other than education.
Well, why can't
No, I don't think that's actually...
Why can't we treat it like we did the bicycle helmets?
Well, I was going to say, I don't know if that's accurate in those ordinances. I think there is some type of criminal punishment to it. It's just, it's
through the juvenile court.
It's through juvenile court.
It's just usually it's your first, like, hey, stop it, give them a chance.
There's no detention for the juvenile as a consequence. There's no equivalent of jail that the juvenile would go into. It's limited to smoking education.
Yeah, but it's handled through the juvenile court, so that's sort of like scared straight kind of program. But to your point, Lisa, this is being addressed at local levels because it's not being addressed at the both state and federal level as it should be. There is great research that's already out there. This thing grew out of my attendance at a Heart Association program where they had a panel of experts that talked about the impact of vaping on youth, and the health risks that they run for doing it, and some of the statistics that describe what the outcomes have been from this activity. And I have the information, you're welcome to look at it as well, but I think what's important to take away from it is the fact that it's at grassroots level that some of these things are going to have to bubble up, and as communities recognize the importance of doing things for the health, safety, and welfare of their residents, we need to be the instigators of those actions. And if for some reason it comes to pass that the state or the federal government decides that they'll do something about it, that's great. But in the intervening time, we need to be the ones taking action, because it's our residents that are at risk. It's our young people that are at risk engaged in this activity. And I want to do my level best to help prevent those risks from affecting the outcome for the future.
This is consistent with what we discussed last year when Moreland Hills passed their ordinance about selling tobacco products to those under 21. And then we talked about doing that as well, but then that was part of the state budget. So we didn't, I think that's why we dropped that last year.
The state made the law.
Right.
I agree with you in the sense that, like, we can't just wait for the state to do it always, because, I mean, look at, for example, plastic bag ordinances. You know, that a lot of people would say, oh, that's a state thing, but I mean, yeah, they're doing a great job with it. So, and then, you know, sometimes when you have smaller communities doing things, it picks up, and then look where that's, you know, come. And so.
But I don't think we should look at this as punitive. I think we should treat it like we do.
Bicycle helmets, the guys, if they see somebody riding a bicycle helmet, they'll stop and give them a pizza certificate.
Yeah, but I think you're dealing with a different age class here. Well, I think a little kid who is like, ooh, a pizza, this is great, I'll wear my helmet from now on. Versus somebody versus a high schooler who's walking around with a vape, you know, being all cool. So I think you're talking about.
But it's a chance for the education, we could pass out in education something.
I agree with the education standpoint. The big thing they were shown is this is happening on the middle school level before it's even getting to high school. You're talking about kids that are 12 and 13 years old at the crux of this, and then going up through high school. I just gave Judd, actually, there's a story in the Orange Outlook lead page about about the problem and the epidemic that it's become nationwide. I think it's a good idea. I think it needs to move beyond education, but initially to educate before it becomes punitive, I think would be helpful too.
We don't really want to send our kids down to the county juvenile system.
No, but I think.
That's exactly what the ordinance would call for enforcement. Because that's the entity that has jurisdiction to determine whether or not there's a violation. So the officer would detain the person, probably release them to the parent, following the usual juvenile protocol, and they would be cited down to juvenile court. So that's what this ordinance will do.
Well, I don't know if I should ask this now, but don't we have some control over which kids we keep in our program?
I want to ask Judd, are you looking more toward stopping the sale of it at the Orange Village locations, or more of the not in, but I mean, I'm talking about under 18?
Sell it under.
Not allowed to, by state law, they're not allowed to sell.
Possession, taking.
It's the possession of, they got it somewhere else. They bought it in Beechwood.
And then came here.
And then they came here.
Okay.
They bought it in.
Their friend got it for them.
Yeah, their friend got it for them. Or it just showed up on their doorstep.
Or their grandmother.
It's the idea of having it, because, you know, let's face it, young people don't often have the discernment to know whether that while they think it's cool, it has a long-term effect that's not good.
And that's the problem they were finding with the middle schoolers, is because it was the cool thing or the in thing, not even thinking about the health ramifications.
They don't, you know, when you're a young person, you're indestructible. When you're an old person, you run into the wall.
The education aspect isn't enough, that there has to be some.
Well, I think we can.
Scare factor too.
Well, we might want to talk further about, you know, what that might look like, and also how it might be administered. But But I think we need to start with having something that is ours that kind of describes what this is, and then we can kind of rattle around with that aspect of it.
Work right now.
Second. Chief?
I think it's very important that the council also determine what happens after that child is found. And for us to find a program for anti-vaping or non-smoking for maybe every child that we find that's doing it. Once again, the legislation passes, and then all the work's passed down to us where we're gonna have to find places to do it. Why don't we have something maybe where you look into the schools, and maybe they get a detention at school, and because this is being enforced by other communities, there's somebody there to educate them. And maybe they get their penalty as a detention, plus education on what it is that they did.
The way the legislation is drafted, that would be the juvenile court's
Direction.
obligation.
All right, let's face it. We're talking about Cuyahoga County Juvenile Court.
I'm telling you how the legislation that has been proposed would operate in practice, and no, what I'm suggesting is, if you pass this legislation, you aren't curing the world's problems. You're sending the juvenile into juvenile court in Cuyahoga County, where they're dealing with other issues that are of significant importance. I'm just, in practice, that's the way it would work.
We want to help our kids, not hurt our kids.
Is that what Pepper Pike's doing right now? Is it?
Well, they passed the ordinance. I don't know what the operation, I mean, we're not going to get information regarding juvenile activities. We're not going to get that information as to what's happened. That's not available to the public.
Anything on the books right now, either at the local level or the state level, about possession of just normal tobacco products, cigarettes by a minor?
This would pick that up.
Yeah, but is there something already?
Sorry?
I don't think they can purchase. Right now, they're not permitted to purchase.
Because what Judd is referring to would be possession of.
I don't think there's anything on possession at this point.
At any level.
For tobacco products.
Right.
There might be
Options of other ways to write it.
Could we, if we did something, could we include tobacco
there
products?
is a procedure dictated by state law for juveniles. It's not a matter. The juvenile court has jurisdiction over juveniles, period, end of discussion. They have a program, but that's not available for discussion at this time. I mean, understand the citation is to the juvenile court. That's what happens.
And would we be able to get statistics on whether that helps prevent use by having that threat of
I think
repercussions?
It's way too early. There's not enough data on these education programs.
And I don't think these legislative actions have been in place that long.
Certainly
to create a.
I don't know nationwide.
Hey, Chief, how often do you think it is that you guys see juveniles with a vape or have a traffic stop with a vape?
I would have to ask the guys on patrol, because I don't see it very much at all. I don't see it when I'm.
Everybody has to do a little research.
If you can just kind of chat and get a feel for it, if they think it's an issue, if they think it's not an issue.
I mean, I can understand the part about prohibiting the sale. I get that, and I think that's way more easily enforceable. It's the use and what we do to a youth that breaks that law, and where it goes to. And then my first reaction would be to notify the parents first. And if we get a second offense from the same individual, then maybe we go through the juvenile court or diversion program.
The bottom line is this has to help our kids, not hurt them in the long run. So however we work that out, it sounds like we have a lot more information still to find out before we make decisions, but we don't want to put in legislation that's going to hurt our kids more than help them.
Well, we don't want to end up with some unintended consequences of it that we hadn't foreseen. And as I think is very clear here, is that the idea is to curb the activity, not to overly punish the person engaging in it.
Right.
Exactly.
I can't hear you.
But I still think that we've got to start with the bones of something and then figure out within that, what do we want to be the outcome for whatever policing there is of the juveniles who engage in this activity.
So do you want Steve to draft an ordinance, or do you want to table it for further discussion?
I'd like to talk to Steve a little bit more about it before he drafts an ordinance, so maybe the best thing to do is to table it for a little further discussion, and I'll get with Steve offline and maybe talk about how might we craft this thing so it makes sense to achieve that objective.
Okay.
Another idea I'm just throwing out there is that this is kind of a great topic for us to study, maybe in a committee with some residents who we have a lot of pediatricians I know in this community. You could see if we could gather some professionals and some bright people who could come up with ideas for us as a council, whether or not to legislate something or other.
I believe that the American Heart Association Cleveland chapter would be very, very happy to get with us and furnish that kind of resource for us to consider.
Yeah. And maybe added to that, like some residents who have teenagers.
I think anything's going to come out and saying that vaping's not bad for you. I think that that's probably the common. I think the issue isn't whether or not it's bad and we should stop it. It's if we decide to put an ordinance on the books, how do we enforce it and what should that enforcement be?
Well, I think what we want to do at the end of the day is have something that is manageable by the police, that doesn't, the police department, that is not overly burdensome to them, and at the same time has a positive effect on the outcome. You know, we're not sure, we're going to have to do some, at least hypothesizing as to relatively what we think will work, and maybe that down the road gets adjusted over time, but at least we start from a point where we think this is, the effect we want is to reduce the incidence of young people using these devices and consuming this product, and then figuring out what's the best way to curb that.
So why don't we do this? Why don't we table it? Why don't you talk to Mr. Byron here and do some more kind of thinking on how you might want to proceed with it, if that works.
Fine with me.
If you could just talk to some of the guys to see if it's
see what they're seeing out there in the field.
All right, any other questions on that, comments, discussion? Okay. I am going to make a motion. Oh, well, I think we already made a motion to. Or there was a second, right? Come back up.
We got this thing straightened out?
Bye, Brian.
Thank you, Dean.
Thank you.
Chagrin Solon, son?
Yeah.
Thanks.
Police Chief in Pepper Pike sums it up really nicely. Thank you.
What was the date on that?
2/27.
Oh, so this was like last week.
Giving you a hard time again, Anna.
By the way, you guys all got it last week and should have brought your stuff to save the
You want
plan.
to screenshot it and send it to me?
Oh, that'd be even better. Yeah. Whole article right there?
Yeah.
I am.
It was so long ago. So on the treasurer's report, now you're looking at December 31st. We had $8.2 million in our bank account at the end of the year. You have the summary report showing all funds. We started the year at 8.6 or 9.6 million. We're ending at 8.2, and that's primarily because of the capital improvement fund. We had all the leftover funds for the rec trail projects, and we spent part of that down, so that's why the total bank balance is less than we started. And then you have the revenue and expenditure report for 12/31. You'll see we're at 100% of the year. We collected 106.78% of revenue in the general fund, and expenditures were 97% of our budget. On the bottom of the last page, you'll see that for all revenues, all funds, we had 106% in revenue and 92% of our expenditures from budget. Overall, we had a pretty successful year.
So we have a profit, huh?
We had a profit, yes.
Not really a municipal term, but.
Yeah.
I have a quick question, and it's probably not a quick question, and we can talk about this outside if you want to, but I'm just wondering, we talked about the money going to the schools from the TIF, and I'm just wondering where we are in that and at what point the schools will start to see some of the revenue that had been talked about.
Okay, well, the schools get a portion of the Pinecrest TIF Fund 209, which is on here. They get a portion of that. That's the property taxes. With regards to the income tax, it is done, the distribution to the schools are done in May, and it's based on the prior year. So I'm working on taking the December 31st figures and doing the calculation for that. So that will be coming out later.
Perfect, thank you.
About 1.3 million this year.
That's not bad.
$20,000.
Any other questions on this report? Okay. Not, if you call roll, please.
Vincent?
Yes.
Harry? Yes. Silver?
Yes.
Klein?
Excitedly, yes.
Bilski?
Yes.
Huber?
Yes. And I'll make a motion to approve the tax administrator's
This
report.
is beyond enthusiastic.
Someone seconds? Anyone?
Second.
Thank you.
So this is for January. It's our first month of 2020 for the tax administrator's report. For all funds, we collected $439,000 in revenue, which is the gross taxes collected. And that's about $47,000 more than where we were at the same point in time of last year. And so we're off to a good start with regards to that. And I also just wanted to let you also know that when we had our annual meeting with RITA, the Regional Income Tax Agency informed us that when they talk to new communities joining RITA, or when they're talking to new treasurers that are starting in a community that's RITA, they talk to them about the processes and the procedures and the steps that they take for their collections, and they use Orange Village as an example for we're doing it right. And this is a way.
Be it Rita.
So I think it's kudos to Orange Village that they use us as an example to share with other communities on how to do it properly. So I just wanted to let you know that, because they let us know that. I thought that was very nice of them to let us know.
Give my wife the credit.
Does she work at Rita?
She's the assistant law director. Rita.
Huh?
Does anybody have questions, comments, concerns, tax administrators?
Vincent?
Yes.
Harry? Yes. Silver?
Yes.
Klein?
Happily, yes.
Bilski? Yes. Huber?
Can't run out of adjectives.
All right, moving on
adjectives.
to committee reports, comments by council members. Ms. Perry.
Today we invited residents to the Kimball Recycling Facility, and we had about 20 residents come. Stacy, Vincent, Amy, and myself represent Orange, and we actually, interestingly, had 2 or 3 Pepper Pike residents tag along with friends, or I don't know, somehow just tagged along, which was absolutely fine. It was kind of cute that they wanted to tag into that. Unfortunately, with all that enthusiasm from the community, which I thought was a great response, unfortunately, the Kimball representative who was supposed to meet us did not show, didn't respond. People even working there were not able to find him or figure out if he was even there that day, and his supervisor also didn't respond. It was very frustrating to everybody who attended. I think it looked unprofessional, so we finally did get somebody who came and gave us a tour. He gave us some information, and I think it's going to be interesting to verify the information that he gave us about recycling through the main representative, whose name happens to be Don Johnson. Because some of the information was different than what we've been hearing from other people and what we've been putting out to our community members. So I'm interested in following up with that and finding out what information should we be asking residents about to recycle, to not recycle, and making sure that they're getting the most accurate information. From the people who came, the residents who came, they were so interested in doing things right. And so I hope that in the future we can possibly have a relationship with our recycler, whoever it is, gives us more up-to-date information rather than once every 3 or 5 years, whatever we're telling people. So for instance, here's something that has changed over the years that I did not know exactly. But with glass items, you should unscrew the lid, rinse it, and leave it separate. But with plastic items, at least this man that we talked to today said, they should be rinsed and then the lid's put back on. It makes it passing through their equipment easier and better. They are recycling more plastic than I originally thought. I thought that there was no market at all in America anymore for recycled plastic, but they are indeed still recycling it. They like some plastics more than others. So that was very interesting.
White milk cartons was big. They love those white milk cartons.
They do. The milk cartons and the Tide cartons, or the laundry detergent cartons, they get more money for that. So it's all business to them. There were some really intelligent questions that residents asked. One was, what percentage of the bill to the city, the village in this case, is paying for the recycling versus what they're selling? Unfortunately, our tour guide, Rob, couldn't answer those kind of questions for us. And I think that we do have such, and I've noticed an active community that really wants to do the right thing, wants to recycle as much as possible, make it easiest on the planet as possible. So hopefully we can get good, accurate information from that, from our recycler, so we can pass it on.
Thank you. Mr. Silver.
The only I have is the Orange Hill Estates Homeowners Association annual meeting is 2 weeks from tomorrow, 19 to 7 p.m. right here at the table. If anyone would like to come and meet one or two of our residents.
And this is the 19th?
Yeah, I plan to put on Facebook. I'll be there.
Okay.
7 p.m.
I'm going to be out of town.
Get invited to the
We have their meeting.
Silverstone.
They might just if they have it without me.
JEO.
Any other comments? Thanks. Mr. Boski.
Have anything?
Mr. Klein.
The Planning Commission met, and Architectural Review Board met last night, reviewed plans for a couple of houses over at the Lakes of Orange and approved those to move forward. There'll be several more. There'll be some other significant projects coming to the forefront in the next few weeks, and we'll advise council accordingly as to what the schedule is.
Do so right now. Let's
Okay.
let's
Why don't you do that, Mayor? I didn't want to steal your...
April 7th on your calendar. April 7th will be the introductory presentation on the Pinecrest Residential that has been submitted as a formal application. And, I mean, we're going to see it lots of times. We're going to talk about it lots of times. This is just the beginning of the process.
Wait, what is this? I'm sorry.
392-unit residential development between the movie theater and Chagrin Boulevard.
What's April 7th, though?
The
Planning Commission.
Where the presentation will be made.
Next door.
Planning is on the southern
Time?
6:30.
Anna, will you send us a?
And that's all I got.
Hi. So I want to start off by thanking Lisa and Anna and anyone who helped in putting together the event today, even though it was delayed by an hour. What? Did you have nothing to do with it? I thought it was a great event still. I thought it was, I was really amazed at what I saw there. Even just looking through the windows, I got some great photos that I'll share with Anna so she can share it with the residents and the community that just really kind of show how big a problem this is. And the other thing that you mentioned that I thought was really interesting about plastic bags, which we've all had, obviously we've discussed here, but that they let us know how horrible those plastic bags are, because they said some people are putting recyclables into plastic bags and tying them up and sending them, and they say they end up just putting that whole thing right back to the landfill because it destroys the machines as they get tangled and caught up in it. So plastic bags are really a bad thing as far as they're concerned too. So I just thought it was very interesting. I know you were frustrated, but I still think it was a great event. So thank you for coordinating that.
You can share about the bat too.
So at one point they ended up doing, they didn't have enough of the hats, the goggles and the safety attire, so we ended up going in 2 tours, and we went through the first tour, and at one point on the conveyor belt they were showing us how things get sorted and distributed, and Rob pulled up a baseball bat and said, "What do you think this is used for?" And everyone's guessing to sort, to move it around. And he's like, "No," he goes, "This is the point where when the stuff comes together here, the rats love to hang out here and end up on the conveyor belt going through." So literally the bat is used to get rid of the rats. So I won't say any more because we all kind of had that mortified look that you all now have on your faces too. But just they were very interesting pieces and parts, and if any of you want to see the photographs, just ask. I did have a couple questions actually came up about the trails, when that's starting up again and where we'll be first.
We got a meeting tentatively set next week, and I'll have that answer then.
Thank you.
Or after the council meeting. What day is the meeting?
So after. Yes, just people are very interested in knowing what's going on with that, so I just wanted to share that. I also got a call from somebody in Moreland Hills who was serving on what they had called the Green Commission, and then became the Green Parks Commission, and now is being the Green Commission again, and asking if we in Orange Village had anything like that. And I don't think we do. And then she was asking if that was something that we would want to be a part of if they made it more community-wide instead of just Moreland Hills.
What is it?
She's happy to come in and talk about it and more discussion. I just didn't even know where we were on something like that. Keeping things green, I guess, and, you know.
The mayor.
Okay. Yeah, you have a mayor's meeting coming up, right?
At one point, we had a sustainable building committee, but that's been disbanded for some time.
Yeah, and I know Dan Fritz wanted to bring the Green Commission back to Moreland Hills, so.
We called it Greening of the Hills, and we call Turning Orange Green. But we don't have any program.
Okay, I'll let her know. Did we get a new website manager yet?
The interview process.
One thing I think we should put up on our website is with all the discussion about the coronavirus that's going around, I know a lot of communities are just putting some information up about what their town is doing, if anything, and what people can do to reference, you know, just some key links if they want more information.
Literature that has it summarized, that we could just link it?
So Orange Schools posted it today. And it summarizes it beautifully.
Go grab that and put that. I have a phone conference Friday morning. There's a County Board of Health and State Board of Health phone conference about the coronavirus. Today I know nothing. Friday I'll know more.
So what the hospital's recommending is the CDC site or the World Health Organization?
That's one of the ones that's linked.
Oh, CDC or WHO, World Health Organization. So both those sites we could link. Trying to filter it, that information's changing so frequently, like probably twice a day, that we're probably better off referring them to a national organization.
Just good for our residents to know that they have one place to go where they can then find all that stuff. So I think that'd be interesting. And also just a warning to people that scams are already starting about, buy into our stock. We have the cure for the coronavirus, and just watch out for those kind of scams. And people who have come up with the resolution to solving the virus, and just be aware of that and be careful. I want to let everybody know that today officially a section of I-271 was renamed the Ronald H. Barron Memorial Highway. Well-deserved, and a nice permanent tribute to Councilman Ron Barron that was signed into law today. And there was a school board meeting last week. There was more discussion of the new frontage of the schools and some of the upgrades, which they're looking at upwards of $3 million to renovate those portions of the high school that need renovation badly. And if you haven't been down Chagrin, the old library is gone. It's been completely demolished, and now it's just the art center, and there'll be more excavation going on down the line, but the building itself is gone.
Plan for that? Do they have a plan for that?
Not yet. Not yet. A plan for the excavation, or a plan for what's going to go there?
Go there.
Well, no, and I think the Beach Brook is probably part of that discussion at some point. But that's an excellent transition, just to let everybody know that the Beach Brook meeting has officially been rescheduled to March 31st. It is after Orange's spring break, which is good. So that's all I have. Thank you.
Thanks. Mayor?
I think Stacy just said everything.
I know. The only thing I have is I bring your attention to the two annual reports you received from the fire and the service department. I think they're very impressive, and I think you will be amazed at some of the things that get done that we don't even think about until we read about it once a year. If you have any questions, we'll be happy to answer them, and we'll see you next week, no later than 6:30, because we have a lot of ground to cover. We'll meet in the lobby there. I think we'll do police first. Yes?
Passing the buck.
They'll figure it out how we're going to do it, but let's...
In here in the lobby?
Yeah. That's all I have.
I have no comments. I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
Missed that one.
I'll roll one more.
You like that? Would you enthusiastically second? You didn't enthusiastically second. You just second.
Vincent?
Yes.
Everyone, listen. We're still calling roll.
Harry? Yes.
Thank you.
Over? Yes. Klein?
Yes.
Wolski?
Yes.
Enthusiastic.
Duber?
Vote no. Vote no.
Duber.
Anna?